Hello everyone and welcome to Sarah Talks, an initiative of Emerging Leaders Foundation, where we harness the power of storytelling and open dialogue to immerse young people in public policy conversations. My name is Njeri Mwathi and I'll be your host for this session. In our Excellence in Public Service series, we are hosting a host of public policy experts, and today our guest is a distinguished scholar of African Development Studies, Professor Michael Chege. Professor Michael Chege has had a prolific career in the public sector. He has served as the chair of the board of the Kenya Institute of Public Policy Research and Analysis, as well as the chair of the Kenya Governing Council for NEPAD and APRM. He has also served as an advisor under the then Ministry of Economic Planning and National Development, as well as the National Economic and Social Council. He was chair of the technical committee that drafted the Kenya Vision 2030, and for his contributions in this role, he was commended with the national honor of the Elder of Burning Spear. Professor Michael Chege has worked in various roles, including stints at the Ford Foundation and UNDP, and continues to do consultancy work with institutions such as the World Bank, the Africa Development Bank, SIDA, USAID, just to name a few. Here at Emerging Leaders Foundation Africa, we have benefited immensely from Professor Chege's leadership. He was the founding chair of the board, as well, and now currently serves as the chair of the honorary council. Karibu, Professor Chege.
Thank you, Jerry.
We are so glad to have you.
Thank you very much for that very good introduction. I couldn't remember what I did before.
I know it can spend quite some time even going through your CV.
Thank you.
Quite some time.
Yeah.
And I believe such a long career as yours, there's quite a story to it. Perhaps we can start with you telling us, what has your journey in the public sector as an academic, what has it meant, what has it been like for you to get and take up these roles?
This is a very good question to start with. My generation came to maturity, to adolescence at the time of independence. Mm-hmm. We had seen colonialism and mistreatment of Africans under British rule. Mm. Just to give you an example, while we are sitting and you're interviewing me today, Westlands, no African could be allowed to own property here. Oh, wow. Unless you're a servant, you are not allowed to be here after 6 p.m.
Wow.
Because the rules which have obtained here are those of apartheid. We thought we could work with the government to create a country which all African people can be proud of.
Right.
And not just African people, anybody who chose to live in Kenya, white, black, brown. And those were the policy of the founding fathers of our independence.
Right.
And we thought my generation would immerse ourselves, get the skills, and come and help build capacity so that our country can move and be proud of in that way, in the way we saw developed countries being run.
Right.
We acquired the skills, went to university, came, taught. I always have moved from academia to public policy research, practice, and back. All of that is intended in my life to make it easy for the new governments, for the new states to achieve what the people of Africa wanted at independence. Yeah.
Right. What was your motivation at the time? Tell us, what was the thinking behind your desire to serve in the public sector?
African dignity and respect globally. That is ultimately the end. And the end of freedom is to enable people to live lives the best way they can. Make choices that are reasonable and well-reasoned because they have an education under a government which facilitates their capacity to achieve high qualities of life. I think that African countries had, and developing countries as a whole at that time, had a responsibility to their people. That's why they fought for independence. The rhetoric and thinking and writing and the books that we read were about how to get there.
Right.
So I studied economics and political science as disciplines that I felt had some literature and some teachings that could be able to, and I've moved again from practice to theory, from theory to practice all the time.
So there's this famous quote about the man in the arena. For you, it wasn't just about researching about development. It was also taking up a role and a lead more so in pushing for the development that we needed to see in Kenya. What was that like?
That has been changing over time.
Right.
But I think in a way rewarding to me personally. At the beginning, when I came to teach at the University of Nairobi and I went to graduate school under a staff training program of the University of Nairobi when it was just started to bring in African academics, teachers, professors, lecturers, was that we were expected at the same time as you're teaching to make serious contribution to policy making in government. And we did that. It's difficult to narrate now to people like you or even younger people that we used to have seminars at the Institute for Development Studies after 4, 5 o'clock, and civil servants would come and be participants with our discussion on policy issues, and policy papers and research. And those papers would be distributed at Treasury, for example, in my case, where my research was very much oriented towards. And we would be going to the Treasury for seminars and workshops. No extra money, none of these sitting allowances you hear about. You went there because you had service to give to the country. And we thought we were making it. And the ministries and the government felt, university, and they said, yes, as long as we are part of a team, make every contribution you can.
I liked that you said that there was that collaboration between academics and the government. So much so that the government was relying on research that's done by academics. What do you feel about the relationship that we see now between government and research-based policy? And what has changed? What could be better about that relationship now?
I think tragically what happened in the 1980s at the height of the Moi government is a lot of intolerance at the university, where people voicing critical opinion or different opinion from government felt insecure and had to leave. And I had among those who left. But worse than that, at the back of that, the structural adjustment program, which destroyed higher education in Kenya in the form that it was. Structural adjustment said the universities can run parallel programs to what they normally teach. You can double or triple the output and make money out of it. Make the university a degree factory. And charge for your product so that the university can be self-sustaining financially and not be dependent on the Treasury. So what we had since are universities, except for very few private ones, which are oriented towards producing as many graduates, as many degrees as possible, charging for it, and running out. When Dr. Matiang'i came and was strict about the input going to the university and about marking of exams, we had fewer students going through the universities. The universities were not getting enough revenue. Now they are in a deficit because they've been used to these charges. As a result, you see the crisis we have now. We really have to go back and ask ourselves, do we want this model of university or shall we go to the older one? I prefer going back to the older one.
Go back to the old one.